الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. فلا أقسم بمواقع النجوم وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم. إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. تنزيل من رب العالمين. أفبهذا الحديث أنتم مدهنون وتجعلون رزقكم أنكم تكذبون. فلولا إذا بلغت الحلقوم وأنتم حينئذ تنظرون ونحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون. فلولا إن كنتم غير مدينين ترجعونها إن كنتم صادقين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. فأما إن كان من المقربين فروح وريحان وجنة نعيم. وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين. وأما إن كان من المكذبين الضالين فنزل من حميم وتصلية جحيم. إن هذا لهو حق اليقين. فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم اعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Respected brothers, the Moulana who led the Isha prayer today is our guest today for the program tonight. Inshallah, after the remaining salah, Moulana will deliver a bayan, a speech. All brothers are requested to kindly stay behind and participate. It will be very beneficial. And just a reminder, today's collection was for Jamia Qasmiya, Ashraful Ulum, Darul Uloom in Dhaka in Bangladesh. Total number of students 260, and in boarding there are 200 students. The current annual cost to run this Darul Uloom is £50,000. So please, on your way out, give donations, ya zakah, sadqan lillah donations. Jazakallah.
No. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to request everyone to come forward close to the minbar, especially those who do not need to be leaning against the wall if they are not excused or not elderly. Again, I request all the brothers to come forward close to the minbar. Please keep in mind there are still brothers who are praying salah. So taking that into consideration, please brothers come forward. भाइयों से गुजारिश है कि आगे करीब तशरीफ लाए. जज़ाकल्लाह. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem amma ba'd. Respected brothers and elders, in the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, after Isha Salah, there are three types of people, three types of group. There are those who go in to indulge in and sins, committing sins. As you know, today there are other people with other religions and other celebrations. There may be people going to do guna and going to commit sins. For them, they earn the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then there are those who go to sleep. Straight after Isha. For them, if they have gone to sleep with sunnat and with the ibadah, they will earn the pleasure of Allah. Otherwise, they will neither gain the anger or the pleasure of Allah. They go to sleep. And there are others who spend their time in ibadat, in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And alhamdulillah, from those people, we are amongst those people who have prayed our Isha Salah with Jama'ah. Alhamdulillah, we have been given the tawfiq to sit in the masjid, in the best places, in the ahabbul masajid ila Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-masajid. The most beloved places in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the masjids. We have been given the tawfiq to sit in the masjid and to be in the company of the scholars, listening to a bayan for education. So many virtues, alhamdulillah, very virtues we are gaining through this bayan and from sitting in the masjid. And all the time we are in the masjid, we are in the worship, in the gathering of the angels. We are very blessed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it the means of our forgiveness, make it the means of our guidance, and make it the means of hidayat spreading around the world. Inshallah, I would like to start off the program by calling one of our students from Hafiz class, Hafiz Zaid Hafiji, who has just completed his hifz this year. Inshallah, he will do a qiraat for us. Just the brothers again, if we can just request all the brothers to come forward and fill in the gaps. Jazakallah. भाइयों से गुजारिश की आगे करीब तशरीफ लाए. It's better if all the brothers who are at the back and near the end, brothers are requested to kindly come forward. Jazakallah. आगे तशरीफ ले आए.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون. لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر. سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. صدق الله العظيم.
جزاك الله خيرا وأحسن الجزاء. MashaAllah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to understand the Quran, understand the verses that Hafiz Sahib has read, give us ability to bring taqwa inside our life and gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why we are here today, gathered to gain the pleasure of Allah. Every action that we do, it is to gain the pleasure of Allah, it is to gain the closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the pleasure of Allah. Every amal, every action that we do, it should be for the pleasure of Allah. Yes, we are sat here for what? Because we have to, our parents have told us, or maybe we are doing it because we have nothing else to do. Why not we renew our intention and just think that this, me sitting in the masjid, all the rewards I will get, inshallah, whatever I will listen to, I will act upon, I will try to bring into our life, which will make it the means of us getting close to Allah. Why not we make the intention today that all those things that we have done in the past, all the way I have spent my life, all those gunas I have done, all those times I have committed sins and gained the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, today I'm going to change. Today is the day, inshallah, whatever I get told by the Moulana Sahib in the bayan, whatever I learn, those who are staying here for the sleepover, whatever questions I have, whatever doubts I have, I will ask, and I want to change my life. Person says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will change a person when he wants to. Allah ta'ala guides the people. Allah yashtabi ilayhi man yasha wa yahdi ilayhi man yunib. Certain people are chosen for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's work. The prophets were chosen, Sahaba, the awliya, the close saints of Allah subhanahu, they are chosen from Allah. People like us, وَيَهْدِي إِلَيْهِ مَنْ يُنِيبُ. Inabat, we need to show Allah Ta'ala that we want to change. Otherwise a person doesn't want to change himself. Allah Ta'ala wants to guide us, Allah wants to help us, Allah wants us to go into Jannah. Inna Allah la yarda li ibadihi al-kufr. Allah does not like for His slaves, for them to do kufr, for them to go into Jahannam, to go into the wrong path. Allah wants to guide us. It is upon us that we want the guidance, we want taqwa, we want Jannat, we want Allah in our life. For this, we need to change ourselves, we need to change our intentions. Today, inshallah, we can make that niyat, and then the niyat should be that I want to get close to Allah, and whatever I get told, inshallah, whatever I listen to, inshallah, I will guide and I will act upon it. Inshallah, moving on to the program. Before we call upon the guest, our Moulana Saheb, I would like to call upon our guest, Shakil Bhai, who is from Blackburn, currently studying, as everyone knows, in Blackburn Darul Uloom. MashaAllah, he's in his final year and he will be graduating. So I would like to call upon Shakil Bhai to do some nasheeds for us. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah ta'ala, first of all, I'll try to create love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. जैसे हमारी यहाँ पहले खानकाहों में अल्लाह तबारक व ताला का कलमे का विर्द कराया जाता था, उसी तर्ज पे इंशाअल्लाह ताला मैं कोशिश करूँगा, कलमे तैयबे का विर्द करूँगा, उसके बाद नात शरीफ पेश करूँगा। अल्लाह ताला हम सब के दिलों में अपनी मोहब्बत पैदा फरमाए। जैसे हमारे बुजुर्ग फरमाते हैं कि आज हम लोग इबादत भी करते हैं, कुरान भी पढ़ते हैं, सब कुछ करने के बाद अल्लाह से अल्लाह का गैर मांगते हैं। सबसे पहले हम अल्लाह से अपनी मोहब्बत मांगे, अल्लाह तेरी मोहब्बत अता फरमा, तेरा क़ुर्ब अता फरमा, तेरी मईयत अता फरमा। बल्कि अल्लाह हम तुझसे तू मांगते हैं, तू हमें अता फरमा, अपनी ज़ात नसीब फरमा। करेंगे इंशाअल्लाह। यार रहे या रब तू मेरा, कहो बेशक। यार रहे या रब तू मेरा और मैं तेरा यार रहूं, मुझको फ़क़त तुझसे हो मोहब्बत, खल्क़ से मैं बेज़ार रहूं। यार रहे या रब तू मेरा और मैं तेरा यार रहूं, मुझको फ़क़त तुझसे हो मोहब्बत, खल्क़ से मैं बेज़ार रहूं। हर दम ज़िक्र फ़िक्र में तेरे मस्त रहूं, शर्मसार रहूं। होश रहे ना मुझको किसी का, तेरा मगर होशियार रहूं। अब तो रहे बस ताद में आखिर विरद ज़बाए मेरे इलाह। ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, 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 ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। तेरे सिवा माबूद हकीकी कोई नहीं है, कोई नहीं, कहो बेशक। तेरे सिवा माबूद हकीकी कोई नहीं है, कोई नहीं। तेरे सिवा मक़सूद हकीकी कोई नहीं है, कोई नहीं। तेरे सिवा मौजूद हकीकी कोई नहीं है, कोई नहीं। तेरे सिवा माबूद हकीकी कोई नहीं है, कोई नहीं। अब तो रहे बस ताद में आखिर विरद ज़बाए मेरे इलाह। ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, لا الہ الا اللہ لا الہ الا اللہ لا الہ الا اللہ لا الہ الا اللہ. دونوں جہاں میں جو کچھ بھی ہے سب ہے تیرے زیر لگی. دونوں جہاں میں جو کچھ بھی ہے سب ہے تیرے زیر لگی. جن و انس و حور و ملائک عرش و کرسی چرخ و زمین کون و مقام لائق سجدہ تیرے سوائے نور مبین. کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں. کون مقام لائق سجدہ تیرے سوائے نور مبین. کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں. اب تو رہے بس تاد میں آخر ورد زبائے میرے الہ. لا الہ الا اللہ 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 محمد رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم. اللہ اکبر. اس کے بعد اللہ کے رسول صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے مبارک شہر میں پہنچتے ہیں جس میں شاعر نے فرمایا ہے کہ اللہ کے رسول کا شہر کتنا قیمتی ہے کہ وہاں جانے والوں کو پتہ ہے کہ وہاں جانے کے بعد ہماری کیفیت کیسی بن جاتی ہے. اللہ تعالی ہم سب کو مدینہ منورہ کی حاضری نصیب فرمائے. اس کے پہلے بھی 2-3 مہینے پہلے پروگرام ہوا تھا تو میں نے ایک اور مدینہ کی نظم پڑھی تھی. اللہ تعالیٰ اس کو بھی قبول فرمائے. شاعر کہتا ہے مجھ کو شہر نبی کی فضا مل گئی. 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 یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی. یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی. مجھ کو شہر نبی کی فضا مل گئی. ہم مدینے میں پہنچے تو ایسا لگا. ہم مدینے میں پہنچے تو ایسا لگا. ہاں ایسا لگا. کیا لگا؟ جیسے پردیسیوں کو پناہ مل گئی. جیسے پردیسیوں کو پناہ مل گئی. مجھ کو شہر نبی کی فضا مل گئی. یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی. میرے ساتھ مل کر پڑھے. یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی. یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی. آنکھ مخمور ہے دل بھی مسرور ہے. آنکھ مخمور ہے دل بھی مسرور ہے، ہاں دل بھی مسرور ہے، کیوں کہ سبز گنبد کی ٹھنڈی ہوا مل گئی، سبز گنبد کی ٹھنڈی ہوا مل گئی، مجھ کو شہر نبی کی فضا مل گئی، یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی، یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی۔ اہم شعر ہے، مسکن مصطفیٰ حجرہ عائشہ رضی اللہ عنہ، مسکن مصطفیٰ حجرہ عائشہ، حجرہ عائشہ، ابو بکر اور عمر کو جگہ مل گئی، ابو بکر اور عمر کو جگہ مل گئی، مجھ کو شہر نبی کی فضا مل گئی، یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی۔ پھر کہتے ہیں اور بلال کو یاد کرتے ہیں شاعر، ریت پر جس نے نعرہ احد کا دیا، ریت پر جس نے نعرہ احد کا دیا، ہاں نعرہ احد کا دیا، پھر کیا ہوا؟ سب کے پیارے بلال کو اذان مل گئی، سب کے پیارے بلال کو اذان مل گئی، مجھ کو شہر نبی کی فضا مل گئی، یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی، روح کی تازگی کی ہمیں طیبہ میں، روح کی تازگی کی ہمیں طیبہ میں، ہاں ہمیں طیبہ میں، کیا ہوا؟ ابتدا مل گئی انتہا مل گئی، ابتدا مل گئی انتہا مل گئی، مجھ کو شہر نبی کی فضا مل گئی، یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی، اپنے مولا کا شکل ہم پر احسان ہے، اپنے مولا کا ہر ایک پر احسان ہے، کیا کہ نعت گوئی میں ہم کو جگہ مل گئی، نعت گوئی میں ہم کو جگہ مل گئی، مجھ کو شہر نبی کی فضا مل گئی، یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی، یعنی کہ درد دل کی دوا مل گئی۔ اللہ قبول فرمائے۔ بس تھوڑا سا ہم مدینہ پہنچ گئے ماشاءاللہ۔ اب اللہ کے رسول صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کی مبارک نعت ہے، اس میں اللہ کا بھی ذکر ہے۔ خدائی رب کی خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت کہاں نہیں تھی کہاں نہیں ہے خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت کہاں نہیں تھی کہاں نہیں ہے زمین کا ایسا ہے کوئی گوشہ زمین کا ایسا ہے کوئی گوشہ کہ جس جگہ آسمان نہیں ہے وہ روشنی کا سفیر بھی ہے وہی سراج منیر بھی ہے کہو بے شک وہ روشنی کا سفیر بھی ہے وہی سراج منیر بھی ہے نبی کی ذات ایک دیا ہے ایسا نبی کی ذات ایک دیا ہے ایسا کہ جس دیے میں دھواں نہیں ہے نبی کی ذات ایک دیا ہے ایسا کہ جس دیے میں دھواں نہیں ہے خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت کہاں نہیں تھی کہاں نہیں ہے پھر شاعر کہتا ہے چلو مدینے چلو اب مکہ چلو مدینے چلو اب مکہ کہو انشاءاللہ کیوں کہتا ہے شاعر مدینہ مکہ چلنے کو کیوں کہ زمین کے اوپر فلک کے نیچے زمین کے اوپر فلک کے نیچے کہیں بھی جائے امان نہیں ہے زمین کے اوپر فلک کے نیچے کہیں بھی جائے امان نہیں ہے خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت کہاں نہیں تھی کہاں نہیں ہے اہم شعر ہے بے شمار آج بھی مؤذن ہے بے شمار آج بھی مؤذن امام بھی انگنت ہے لیکن امام کوئی رسول جیسا امام کوئی رسول جیسا بلال جیسی اذان نہیں ہے امام کوئی رسول جیسا امام کوئی رسول جیسا بلال جیسی اذان نہیں ہے خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت خدائی رب کی نبی کی رحمت کہاں نہیں تھی کہاں نہیں ہے پھر شاعر کہتا ہے کہ نبی سے محبت ہے تو درود شریف کا اہتمام کرے پڑھو درود اور سلام بھیجو پڑھو درود اور سلام بھیجو کیوں کہ یہی طریقہ ہے رب کا لوگو کہ جو وقت ذکر نبی میں گزرے جو وقت ذکر نبی میں گزرے قبول ہے رائے گا نہیں ہے खुदाई रब की नबी की रहमत, खुदाई रब की नबी की रहमत कहाँ नहीं थी, कहाँ नहीं है। आखिरी शेर है, नबी के अखलाक के बारे में है, अल्लाह ताला हमें नसीब फरमाए। जो दुश्मनों को भी माफ कर दे, जो दुश्मनों को भी माफ कर दे, जो दर्द ज़हनों की साफ कर दे, खुदा भी शाहिद के इस जहां में, खुदा भी शाहिद के इस जहां में हुजूर सा मेहरबान नहीं है। खुदा भी शाहिद के इस जहां में, खुदा भी शाहिद के इस जहां में हुजूर सा मेहरबान नहीं है। खुदाई रब की नबी की रहमत, खुदाई रब की नबी की रहमत कहाँ नहीं थी, कहाँ नहीं है।
Jazakallah, subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to act upon what the Hafiz Sahib said in his ash'ar. For those who did not understand, three nazams, three nasheeds. First was on the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, La ma'buda illa, there is no worthy of worship, no one except for Allah. That is why he was kept on, the chorus was La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Today in the time of Christmas, people believe in Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, as a son of God, but this Nashri, the Nazam, La ilaha illallah, Mal Masih ibn Maryam illa Rasul. Isa alayhi salam was the Rasul, Qad khalat min qablihi Rusul, like the Rasul and the prophets before. The second Nasheed was in the praise of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the Medina Tayyibah. Says the Shaykh was saying, the poet says, when you go to Medina, when you feel the atmosphere, all your problems of the heart are removed by visiting Medina Tayyibah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us a visit to Medina Tayyibah again and again. And finally the last nasheed, Shaykh, the poet, was saying some advice on the akhlaq of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to bring in the akhlaq of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to send durood and salutation regularly upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to remain in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the halqa of dhikr, and in the remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to act upon everything that has been said. Now inshallah, moving on to the program, our final part, which is the guest of our Moulana Riyaz Dola, who is the guest from Preston. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him barakah in his life. He has given up his time for us. And alhamdulillah, Moulana Sahib is here. Just want to, for those who yet do not know him, Moulana Sahib is Farigh graduate from Dewsbury Darul Jamia Talimul Islam, Dewsbury. Myself, I studied there. I remember when I was still in Hifz class, Moulana Sahib was in Bukhari. So this was the beginning stage of my studies. And Moulana Sahib was graduating in my first year. In 2002, Moulana Sahib graduated. And since then, he's been in Preston, Al-Huda Masjid. He's been doing imamat. Even today, currently, he's an imam at the Al-Huda Masjid in Preston. Also, if you know the Shining Stars, just on Barbara Castleway, Shining Stars in Preston, the nursery, which is in Preston, you find the Preston, Bolton. There are a few branches. Moulana Sahib himself, with his family, his brothers, who are all graduates, most of them from Dewsbury, they run the Shining Stars. And alhamdulillah, we are very great to have Moulana Sahib here. Inshallah, Moulana will give us the words of wisdom and inshallah words of advice for us to follow today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again make dua that give him and his family barakah, give us the ability to act upon Moulana Sahib's advice. Jazakallah wa sallam.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Malsab's made me feel old now, saying that I was in Bukhari when he was still in Hifz class. Oh, but alhamdulillah. Fond memories of, mashallah, our days of studying. Maulana's elder brother was probably a bit more senior, so he was obviously more well known to us at the time. Moulana's marhum father, I used to travel with quite often when we used to travel with Hazrat Hafiz Sahab, rahmatullahi alayh. Many trips we made to Scotland, along with, mashallah, Moulana's father, Mufti Bismillah Sahab. Many a times Moulana Mehboob Sahab of Chole, may Allah Ta'ala grant him good health, mashallah. He's still around. You know, we'd be in one car, and it would be a spectacle sitting in that car, mashallah, listening to Mufti Bismillah Sahab, rahmatullahi alayhi, and Moulana Mehboob Sahab, mashallah. Many things, mashallah, Moulana has already touched upon, and I see, mashallah, many beautiful young faces sat before me. And Moulana did very briefly mention that some of you guys that are sat over here today maybe had no choice but to come here. You were probably planning on going out with your friends, thinking it's Christmas Day, why can't I go out even though most places are shut today. You know, you were planning on maybe just spending some time with the friends, maybe go to a dessert place, Allah maaf kare, maybe some shisha place. Yeah, but unfortunately your parents or your father may have asked you at the last minute, where are you going today? Said that I'm going out with my friends. No, you're not going anywhere with your friends. You're going to the masjid today. And you're going to sit in the program. Dad, but please, before I plan, nope, I'm not going to take no for an answer. So some of you may have been, may have come over here today by force. Some of you, mashallah, may have registered online, like Moulana Mufti Sahab was telling me that, mashallah, 60 odd people have already registered online, mashallah, to spend the night here today, which is great, mashallah. But whatever reason you may be here for today, whether you were just came to pray Isha and you decided, you know what, I've got nothing better to do, might as well kill some time here, as they say, yeah? Or whether you were forced by your parents, or whether you were keen and eager because, mashallah, your ustaz may have been talking to you about it in your madrasa classes, that come and spend some time over here today. A riwayat comes to mind that there were two friends. And on one occasion they met in the marketplace. And after meeting in the marketplace, they decided that, you know what, let's just take ourselves away from everybody over here today. Ta'al nastaghfirullah fi ghaflatin nas. We'll just move to one side and we'll talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll seek the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whilst everybody else in this marketplace is busy in heedlessness, in doing what they want to do. And many a times we go in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mashallah, we have a jamaat, well, some satis from my own local masjid, mashallah, who are sat in front of me here today, they're in Jamia Masjid, so I did speak to, mashallah, one of my uncle actually, and very close to me because I've spent much time together as well, that make sure you bring some of the satis to the bayan. Give me a little bit of moral support, especially when Moulana is making me feel so old, So, mashallah, here they are sat right in front of me, mashallah. So many a times when we go in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we sat in Taaleem in the morning, and then Amir Sahib says, who wants to go for Taaleem Gush? And everyone puts their hands up because we don't want to sit in Taaleem. We'd rather be outside walking around, get a little bit of fresh air. We've all been there, we've all done it, mashallah. I have a big smile in front of me over here. I think he can reminisce exactly what I'm saying. Yeah? So we've all been there. And this is what these people did. They were in Taaleem Gush. Everyone's in the marketplace, busy, doing what they're doing, and they said, let's go to one side and let's talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's exactly what they did. So these guys, they come to you saying, hey, brother, can you have got a few minutes, can we talk to you? And you're putting your hand on your head, why, these guys are game, man, God squad, TJs, always bugging us, and they take you to one side and they're talking to you, and you'd rather be busy doing whatever you're doing. But we listen to them, whether we like it or not, we listen to them. And we sometimes don't understand the value of this. These two youngsters, they talked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometime later, one passed away. And this is a riwayat of Hayatul Sahaba, by the way. One passed away, and he saw, after he passed away, the other one who still remained in the world, he saw the one that passed away in a dream. And when he saw him in a dream, he asked him, that, Ma fa'al Allahu bik? How did Allah deal with you? How did you fare in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When you were presented before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did Allah do to you? So he turned around and he said, you know what? Allah was very compassionate towards me. And the main reason for His compassion and mercy that was showered upon me, but you remember that one day, Ama alimta أن الله قد غفر لنا عشية التقينا في السوق. That very one day, when we met each other in the marketplace and we separated ourselves, we went to one side and we talked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We sought the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In that atmosphere of heedlessness, in that atmosphere of neglect, in that atmosphere where everybody in the bazaar and in the marketplace, everybody forgets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In that atmosphere, when we remembered of Allah, as a result of those moments of remembering Allah, Allah has not only forgiven me, but Allah has also forgiven you. This is how valuable it is. So we may have been made plans to be somewhere else. Maybe we just wanted to sit at home and play on our PlayStation, or spend some time on social media, or play on our iPads. But your mom kicked you out of the house. Ja Isha parwaja. Abbi amra na amra Isha pari na autu. Ne bayan ma behi na auche. Ina pella ni auto. Garma daraja ni kola. I'm not going to open the door. Make sure you sit in the bayan. So you have been forced to come here. But how valuable is this in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We don't understand. And Mufti Sahib touched on something very beautiful. He mentioned some verses of the Quran whereby he said that sometimes when all of us within our heart of hearts, we all want to gain a closeness and a deep love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to gain a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what we don't realize, that every little endeavor and sacrifice that we make by coming inside of the masjid, praying our salah, reciting the Quran, making a little bit of tasbih, going out in jamaat, sitting in ta'aleem, going out for gasht, whatever, all these amals that we do, these are all little steps that we are taking in gaining that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Mufti Sahib mentioned, Allahu yajtabi ilayhi man yasha wa yahdi ilayhi man yunib. Allama Rumi rahimahullah, using the very same verses of the Quran, he elaborates in Ma'arif al-Mathnawi. And he says there are two ways a person can gain guidance. And he can gain a closeness and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Firstly, through jazb. He takes out two terms, two terminologies he deduces from this very verse of the Quran. The first one of jazb, and jazb is like when you soak something. So imagine a sponge and you place it in water. What does it do to the water? It soaks the water up. So sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He provides a means of guidance for certain individuals whereby Allah Himself directly soaks a person. He pulls a person. He attracts a person towards Himself. This is jazb. And the other terminology that Allama Rumi rahimahullah deduces from this verse, he says is suluk. And suluk is endeavor. Suluk is sacrifice. Suluk is working hard. Suluk is you coming to the masjid to pray namaz. Suluk is you sitting down with that Quran. Suluk is you, holding that tasbih in your hand and, going from one beat to another. Suluk is you going out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Suluk is you going out in gush. Suluk is you sitting in the bayan. Suluk is you listening, mashallah, to the beautiful nas that were just recited. Suluk is you, sitting in ta'aleem. These are all a'mals and all ways of suluk. Through your endeavor and through your sacrifice, you are gaining a closeness and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what it is. We all want to gain a closeness with Allah. Jazb. Allama Rumi rahimahullah, he mentions in Ma'arif al-Mathnawi, an example of jazb. There was a very, very renowned king. Well, he wasn't a king. Initially, he was a great king, and then he became a great Sufi. He became a person who was totally oblivious of the world. When he was a great king, his name was Ibrahim bin Adham, and later on he became rahimahullah because of his state of his closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, what happened with Ibrahim bin Adham rahmatullahi alayh? He was a great king. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to guide him. Allah wanted to absorb him, to attract him, to pull him towards Himself. So how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pull and absorb him? How did He attract him? He sent some angels that came in the form of travelers. They came in the form of travelers, normal people, in the form of travelers. And they came and they happened to be upon the rooftop of his palace. And they were walking around, wandering around. Ibrahim bin Adham rahmatullah alayh, who was the king at the time, he actually heard the footsteps of these people walking on his rooftop. So he called upon some of the guards and he said, what is this noise? Some footsteps I can hear on top of my roof. Has somebody, basically come inside of the palace that shouldn't be here? Has somebody kind of gone past security without you people knowing? Go and check who it is. So when they go there, they find a few people. And they look like travelers, tatty clothes, disheveled hair, and you could tell these people have been traveling. So they were obviously gripped by the guards and they were brought in front of the king. And the king says, who are you people and what are you doing on top of my roof at this time? So they turned around and said, listen, we are just travelers. We are just travelers and we've lost our camel. We have lost one of our conveyances, our camel. And we are in search of our conveyance and our camel. And this is why we've come over here. So Ibrahim bin Adham, he says, how foolish can you be? That you've lost your camel, you've lost your conveyance, your means of transportation, and in search of this camel, you've ended up on top of my roof. How are you going to find your camel on top of a roof? Maybe you should have looked somewhere else. How can a camel get on top of a roof? So these were not normal people. They looked like travelers, but they were actual angels that were sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the guidance of Ibrahim bin Adham rahmatullahi alayhi. So as soon as he said this, one of the angels spoke. And what did he say? The way in which you think we are foolish, that we are in search of our conveyance and our camel on your rooftop, we similarly think you are very foolish as well. That you are trying to gain a closeness and a connection and a bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, living such a life of luxury. How can it be possible? It can't happen. What are you doing? This struck a chord. This hit hard on the heart of Ibrahim bin Adham rahmatullahi. What did he do? He totally neglected his kingdom. He gave over his kingdom. He said, I don't want to be the king anymore. He left. He went into the jungles, and I'm not telling you guys to do that, yeah? Okay? So don't start on the A59, otherwise I might have to pick you up on the way home, yeah? So, what does he do? He went into the jungles, and he spent the rest of his life, day and night, in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was means that was provided directly by Allah. Just absorbing, soaking, attracting, pulling somebody. And this is what Allah did for him. And what status did he reach? On one occasion he was walking in this jungle alongside a river, on the riverbank. And whilst he was walking, he was knitting something. He was knitting something. And this one person who happened to pass through the jungle, he noticed him. And there he was in his tatty clothes, in his ragged clothes, hair all over the place, totally oblivious of his appearance, of his attire. Why? Because he wasn't bothered about any of this anymore. He used to live the life of a king at one time, but now these luxuries didn't mean anything to him. But there he was walking alongside a river, knitting this piece of cloth or whatever it was. And when this person noticed him, this thought occurred inside of his heart, that what a foolish person is he. He was living a life of luxury. He was a king. He had a vast kingdom. He had everything a person could ever dream for. Allah had given him everything. And look at the kind of life he's living now. In tatty clothes, hair disheveled, totally oblivious of his appearance. What a foolish guy is he. Why would he neglect such a vast kingdom? Why would he live a life of being a wayfarer and a poor person? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the means of kashf, disclosed, and he informed Ibrahim bin Adham rahmatullahi exactly what he was thinking. So what did Ibrahim bin Adham rahmatullahi do? To teach him a lesson, the very needle that he was using to knit this cloth, he dropped one of them inside of the river, into the river. He dropped it. And then he stood on the riverbank and he commanded the fishes in that river, bring back my needle. Every fish in that river came to the surface of the water with a golden needle in its mouth. Every fish. He turned around and said, no, I want my needle. So this one fish appears with the very needle that he was using, clutching onto the very needle that he was using to knit this cloth. This is jazz. And the other means is suluk. What we are doing today, and this is our endeavor. This is what we are trying to achieve by sacrificing a little bit of our time, or that one night of ours, by staying in this sleepover and spending it in the gardens of paradise. Like Moulana said very beautifully in the hadith, that the most beloved places and in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the masajid. You are dwelling and you are staying in the gardens of paradise. That night of yours, Man ghada ila al-masjid aw raha, a'adda Allahu nuzulan kullama ghada aw raha. You spend one morning or one evening inside of the masjid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become your host in Jannah, inshallah. And Allah will host you in Jannah. We don't realize the value of spending this time over here, listening to these talks, sitting in the company of our ulama, going out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't realize the value of this. But one thing we need to understand, and if we want to really achieve anything, okay, if we want to achieve anything, we want to be successful in life. And I think maybe the focus of your sleepover today should be, like Moulana said, that we need to make intention to change ourselves. But if you want to really make a change, one particular thing that our deen really impresses upon us is the preservation of time. Many a times we find that the reason why we are unable to become productive, unable to achieve, whether it may be from a worldly aspect or whether it may be from a spiritual aspect, is because we are very neglectful of time. We are very neglectful of and heedless of time and the value of time. Hasan al-Basri rahmatullahi alayh was once questioned, and he was a tabi'i. So a tabi'i is a person who's seen the Sahaba. Okay? So he witnessed some of the Sahaba. He spent some time with some of the Sahaba. So they said to him that you have seen the Sahaba, and if we were to ask you, give us one common feature that was prevalent and that existed within each and every Sahabi, what would you say to us? What would you say to us? So he turned around and he said, and Hasan al-Basri rahmatullahi was no normal person himself. A great muhaddith, a great wali, a saint of his time, the sage of the age, as we say. Yeah? So when he was asked this question, he said, Adraktu aqwaman. Okay? He says, I came across many nations, and I came across many different types of people. Okay? But I never came across a group of people, كان أحدهم أشح على أوقاتهم منكم على الدنانير على الدراهم والدنانير. That I never came across a group of people that was so possessive over time, yet they were so casual with their wealth. When it came to time, they never wasted a moment. They never wasted a minute. They were very, very circumspect when it came to time. When it came to the preservation of time. They wouldn't waste a second. Yet when it came to wealth, they were casual. They would empty their pockets. Even when they didn't have, they would give. आज हमारा हाल तो क्या है? What we like today? मौलाना ने अभी माशाल्लाह चंदे का ऐलान किया कि माशाल्लाह ढाका का मदरसा है. We'll go outside. We've probably been hearing this ऐलान for the last few namazes. After every salah. आखिर में हम ईशा में कुछ लेके आए होंगे कि चलो कुछ दे देते बेचारे बहुत दूर से आए. He's come from far away. We'll give the Maulana something. And then we put our hand in our pocket. And the pink one comes out. नहीं ये तो पिंकी है, इसको तो वापस डाल लो. नहीं, not this one, this is pink. And then we put our hand in our pocket again, and it's a purple one. नहीं, this is too much as well. And then we put our hand in our pocket and it's an orange one. नहीं, ये भी बहुत ज़्यादा है, इसको भी डाल लो. वो blue one की तलाश में हम फिरते हैं कि वो blue one कहाँ चली गई? इतनी छोटी है कि वो मिलती नहीं है. It's such a small note, I can't even find that fiber. Where's it gone? And eventually we find the fiber and we put it down. So possessive over our wealth. We're completely the opposite. Possessive over wealth, yet when it comes to time, we are so casual. We'll leave the masjid, we'll stand on the corner, and before we know it, the azan for the next salah is being called. And if you're like me, you probably have 5 missed calls. Where are you? Why are you not home yet? That's what it's like. We talk to the youngsters nowadays, mashallah, on a Friday, Saturday night. And there we are, all the messages are going around on the groups that where we're going to eat today. Which dessert parlor are we going today? Which shisha cafe are we going to go today? Should we stay local? Should we go to Manchester? All these messages are being passed around. And we kill the night. We spend the entire night out, chilling, as they say, Yeah? And then we come back really late, and then we're finding it difficult to wake up for Fajr. This is the way we are. Yet if we actually analyze in the 18th juz of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about the polytheists of Makkah, the mushrikeen of Makkah. And a few words in one verse. And He talks about their certain habits and their certain traits, which became an impediment and a hindrance to them actually coming close to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when He mentions their habits and their traits, He says, mustakbirina bihi samiran tahjurun. 3 words. Mustakbirina bihi. They were proud, they were haughty, they were arrogant about it. About what? Bihi. Mufti Sahib will tell you, and mashallah we may have other ulama in the gathering as well. They will tell you that the ha with the ba, bihi, that ha is a pronoun. Now you can only use a pronoun when you've already mentioned the noun previously. So for example, in English, you guys will probably be saying, Sahib, what are you talking about? I'm not giving you a nahwa lesson, don't worry. Okay? But a pronoun is when you have a conversation in English, you're going to mention the person's name. Could be Muhammad and Yasin and Huzaifa. You first mention the people's names. Then you will just refer to them. But they came and they did this and they this, they that is your pronoun. Is your pronoun. But who are you referring to? Muhammad, Yasin and Huzaifa. Okay? They are actual nouns. And now you're referring to them by using the word they. So likewise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying they were proud about it. So that it is a pronoun. Proud about what? So you have to analyze the verses prior to it to find out what exactly is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about. Maybe Allah has made mention and some reference of this particular pronoun that He is referring to. So when you actually scour the verses before this verse, you will actually not find a marja. You will not find a reference to this particular pronoun. So again, that leaves us with a question in our minds, that what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about? What is He referring to? So the Mufassirin, they explain, firstly, the reason for not actually mentioning the reference, it was because it was so known within their own minds that there was no need to mention it. It was so known, it was such a known fact that there was no need to mention or give a reference of what is actually being referred to. And then the Mufassirin tell us that the reference of this particular pronoun is that they were proud about the Kaaba. They were proud about the Kaaba. The disbelievers of Makkah, they were proud about the fact that they were the custodians of the Kaaba. And they were the ones that were given the responsibility of rendering the services to the Hujjaj and the Mu'tabirin. They were proud about that. So they were proud about their spiritual accomplishments. And unfortunately we're the same. We do a little, I went for Fajr to the masjid today. Or I stayed that night in the sleepover. December ki chuttiyon mein I spent 5 days. I went for 10 days. So we're now proud about our spiritual accomplishments. Being proud in itself is disliked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah doesn't like those that are proud. Allah dislikes those that are haughty, that are arrogant. Never mind then actually, inflating ourselves upon our spiritual accomplishments. No. Allah dislikes this. And Allah is referring to the disbelievers of Makkah, that they were proud about the fact that they were the custodians of the Kaaba. But this pride became an impediment to them coming close to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mustakbirina bihi. Second trait that Allah mentions, samiran. Samiran. And inshallah you guys won't be guilty of this today. What was that? That on a moonlit night, they had this habit that on a moonlit night, they used to gather outside of the house. They used to gather outside of their homes. And they used to have these gatherings where they used to get together and they used to gossip the entire night. What do we do on a Friday night? What do we do on a Saturday night? Here we are, Samiran, in the restaurants, takeaways, dessert parlors, shisha cafes, spending the entire night. They could only do it on a moonlit night because they never had means of electricity that we have today. They never had lights. So they used the light of the moon when it was a full moon. Those were the only days when they were able to actually get together and have these gatherings. But unfortunately today, we're guilty of it every other day, if not on just a weekend. On a Friday night, Saturday night, we spend the entire night out of the home. And we don't even know where our time is going. And when we ask somebody, what are you doing? Oh, just killing some time. You're not killing time. Time is killing you. Time is killing you. Al-waqtu kas-sayf. Time is like a sword. Qata'tahu aw qata'ak. Either you'll kill time or time will kill you. There's no two ways about it. And then when you gather, and you have these gatherings where you're getting together in whatever venues you have chosen, what's going to happen after that? Tahjurun. You're going to gossip. You're going to blurt nonsense. You're going to slander. You're going to backbite. You're going to talk evil of people. And this is what they used to do. And these three traits of theirs became an impediment to them coming close to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were not very mindful of time. They spent the time as they felt like. They never had a timetable. They never had a routine. You analyze the life of any successful man, whether it be from a worldly aspect or whether it may be from a spiritual aspect. The first and foremost trait you will find in every successful individual will be the fact that they never used to waste time. And this is what our deen teaches us, to be very mindful and circumspect, and to be very, very mindful of time. A believer always has an active timetable. And unfortunately today, as time goes on, we find with a lot of our youth, they have no time. Hours will go by on social media. Hours are being spent on YouTube. Hours are being spent playing PS4 and PS5s. FIFA, this, that. Where is your time going? That early part of the day, which we should be giving to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that early part of the day which we should be utilizing to maybe, mashallah, Hafiz Sahib sat over here like Moulana said that he finished his hifz, mashallah, this year. Ask him, what part of the day did you use to actually memorize your Quran? Hafiz Sahib, when did you learn your sabak? Morning. In the morning. In the morning. Today we aspire to become Hafiz, yet we think we can sit with the Quran after Isha and learn 3 sides in half an hour. It's not going to happen. Early part of the day. Those who attend their businesses, their workplaces, early part of the day, they are productive, they are successful. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a riwayat of Tirmizi, he says, Allahumma barik li ummati fi bukuriha. Allah give barakat and blessings and abundance to the people of my ummah in the early part of the day. That part of the day where we have our heads on our pillows. And there we are sleeping away because we had a late night. Oh, I couldn't get up this morning. I had a really late night last night. But that's where the barakat is. You want to gain a connection with Allah? You want to gain a closeness with Allah? You want to excel in your spiritual accomplishments? You want to excel in your worldly aspects? Allahumma barik li ummati fi bukuriha. Wake up for tahajjud. Ask these elders that are sat on these chairs, and they will tell you that when we were in India, our elders used to wake up from there. They used to start from tahajjud. They would wake up before the crack of dawn. They would offer 4 rakats, 6 rakats of tahajjud, and after offering tahajjud, they would make dua, and everybody was in the habit that they would then recite Quran before Fajr. To the point that even some of the elders, they tell us till today, that when we used to leave our homes in the villages to go to the masjid to pray Fajr, we could hear the sound of the Quran being recited aloud within the homes of the people. ये सुनने में आता था उस जमाने में. आज तो हम कुरान गाड़ी में सुनते हैं, सीडी लगा के देते हैं, यूएसबी पे डाल देते हैं. बच्चों को सुलाना हो तो यूट्यूब ऑन कर दो, रहमान ऑन कर दो, यासीन ऑन कर दो, तो कुरान की कुछ आयत हमें सुनने की मिलती है. But what about us? And when we all sit with the Quran ourselves, what are we doing now? Even a hum is, I think, good nowadays. Otherwise, we're just staring at it. And then you're thinking to yourself, I say to my son, Kibita, what are you doing? Dad, I'm praying. But I can't hear you praying. But no, I'm praying, Dad, don't worry. But how can you pray without, I can't hear you. He's in his class. And I'm thinking, how can you learn it like that? हम तो चीख चीख के पढ़ते थे. We used to shout. We used to scream. जब जाके वो एक आयत घुसती थी ज़हन के अंदर. That's what it was. But nowadays, you guys, I don't know how you guys do it. They have USBs in there as well, isn't it? Sub cloud में है. Huh? Everything in the cloud. Right. So this is what it is, my dear youngsters. The early part of the day, a believer has an active timetable. Dawud ala nabina alayhi salatu wassalam, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him prophethood and a vast kingdom, he used to attend to the affairs of his people. And as a result of him spending most of his time in attending to the affairs of the people, he assigned and stipulated for himself a small sum of money which he used to take from the national treasury. He used to draw it from the national treasury, from the Baytul Mal. However, this was something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not disliked, but what was in disagreement with. Hence, to divert his attention towards this, on one occasion, it was a practice of Dawud alayhi salatu wasalam often, that he would go out into the general public and he would question people, gauge public opinion regarding himself. And he didn't do it for no reason but for self-reformation, because he wanted to reform himself. So he'd ask people, what do you think of Dawud? Being disguised, obviously people didn't recognize him. And when he asked them, they'd give him the honest truth. So, what do you think of Dawud? What do you think of Dawud? Imagine our Imam doing that, eh? Okay, Masa, I'm not giving you ideas. Don't try it, please. Yeah? So, he would ask people, what do you think of Dawud? And people would say, oh, mashallah, prophet, is our prophet, our leader, a great king. Allah has made him so pious, virtuous, and he leads rightfully, justfully, etc., etc. We are happy with him. So often this would be the response. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to divert his attention towards this certain practice of his, which about drawing this money from the Baytul Mal, from the national treasury, what happened? Allah sent angels again. Another form of jazz. Allah is absorbing him, Allah is attracting him. Allah is trying to attract his attention towards a certain aspect. Allah sent angels in the form of humans. And he came across these people whilst he was out on one of these errands of his where he was asking people. And when he asked these angels, they gave a very honest reply. They said he's a top man, very good person, but for one certain practice of his. So straight away he was sincere. He questioned, said, what practice are you referring to? He says, well, he has a habit where he is drawing a sum of money from the national treasury, from the Baytul Mal. If only he didn't do this, it would put an extra shine on his personality. So Dawud alayhi salatu wasalam took this upon himself. He turned towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired him, whereby he then granted him this special trait and this quality whereby وَأَلَنَّا لَهُ الْحَدِيدِ, we actually softened iron, ore for him and metal for him. He was able to mold iron and metal and steel using his bare hands without the need of actually sending it into a furnace and warming it up and heating it up so that he can then, no, he could do it with his bare hands. And then using this special attribute that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, he started constructing things, he started making things which he would then sell. And then selling these items that he made, he would then accumulate a sum of money which he was then using to obviously look after himself and to look after his family, to sustain himself and to sustain his family. However, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him this particular trait of being able to mold iron, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing him said to him, and Allah Quran mentions, وَقَدِّرْ فِي السَّرْدِ وَقَدِّرْ فِي السَّرْدِ. Mufassirin explained there's two meanings of the word qaddir over here. He used to construct armor, so chain mail, and he used to link the links of this armor together. So one meaning that the Mufassirin explain is that make sure these links that you join together, they are linked and synchronized to absolute perfection. Make sure they are perfectly aligned. That's one meaning that the Mufassirin explain. And the second meaning that the Mufassirin explained was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was diverting his attention to the fact that let it not be that this particular occupation of yours, it consumes you, overtakes you, and you no longer remain mindful of time. Qaddir, have an active timetable. Make sure you stipulate a fixed amount of time to do what you are doing. Let it not be that you become so engrossed and so engaged in your workplaces, in your businesses, in whatever you are doing, to a point that you become totally heedless of salah, of attending the affairs of people, of coming to the masjid, etc. And we need to question ourselves, what do? We start something at home and we think, okay, the wife's got you to do some decorating, for example, and you start it. It's time for namaz. You know what? If I leave now, areja hai. Reja sa. Let me finish this, then I'll go. And then you carry on doing it, and before you know it, namaz time is finished. Oh, namaz kaisa teja sa. Let me quickly make wuzu and pray my namaz. What is Allah saying to Dawud alayhi salatu wasalam? Have a fixed time. Have a fixed time. Don't go beyond time. Remember, you are a Nabi. Remember, you have to attend to the affairs of the people. Qaddir. Have a timetable. A believer has a timetable. During the Khilafat of Umar radiallahu ta'ala an, he appointed a Sahabi known as Sa'id ibn Amir radiallahu ta'ala anhu as the governor of Hims. Hims was a place in Iraq, and it was also known as Kuwaifatul Sughra, known as a small Kufa. And the people of Hims were very notorious, and Kufa itself, they were very notorious, especially in respect of their leaders. They would measure their leaders with a very fine yardstick. If he stepped out of line, he had it. It was simple as that. Umar radiallahu anhu appointed many people, one after the other, but each appointment turned out to be not the correct one, shall we say, because the people were not happy with their leader. So he appointed one, then another, then another. Eventually, he appointed Sa'id ibn Amir radiallahu ta'ala an. And he's thinking to himself, you know what, I think this is definitely the right and the correct appointment. And for some time, the people of Kufa never came to Umar radiallahu ta'ala an. No complaints were received, no compliments, no complaints, nothing. So Umar radiallahu anhu was content that, you know what, Sa'id ibn Amir is definitely the correct person. But after some time, after some time, when the people of Hims came to Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu questioned them. But what's the matter? You guys have not come to me in a while. Looks like I've maybe got this appointment right. Sa'id ibn Amir, is he a good leader? Are you happy with him? They said, no. Nashku arba'am min af'alihi. We have 4 complaints about him as well. So Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu puts his hands on his head and he says, Allahumma la tukhayyib raja'i fi. Allah, let it not be that I've got this appointment wrong as well. So he says, no problem. If you've got the complaints are there, call Sa'id ibn Amir. So he's called upon. And then Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu in front of Sa'id ibn Amir and those people that had the complaints, he says, right, Sa'id, you need to listen to these people. So he says, okay, what are your complaints? What are your 4 complaints? So he said, the first complaint is, لا يخرج إلينا حتى يتعالى النهار. He doesn't come out of his home until midday. He doesn't come out of his home until midday. He's busy until midday, and he's our governor. He should be there from the crack of dawn attending to our affairs. We need him, but he doesn't come out till midday. So how can we have such a leader who spends the early part of the morning in his house? Ghar se nahi aate. So Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu says, Sayyid, is this true? You're in your house till midday? So he says, yes, Amirul Mu'mineen, that's true. What's the reason? He says, well, laysa li khadimun. He says, I'm the governor, I'm the ruler of that place, but I don't have any servants at home. So I spend the early part of my day attending to my household chores. And I help my wife. You guys have had it when you go home today. Huh? I help my wife in completing the chores of the house in the early part of the day. Once those chores are completed by midday, I then come out of my house. They've not given me a servant to assist my wife. So Umar radiallahu anhu says, well, he's your governor, right? Yes. And you've not given him a khadim or a servant? Said, no, we haven't. So he says, well, what's the complaint? Says, okay, fine, that's our fault, no problem. Second complaint, he says, well, during the night, he goes missing. Isha ke baad ghaib. Shisha after Isha, he didn't go for Shisha, I can tell you. Yeah? He goes missing after Isha. We don't see him. So Umar radiallahu anhu again questions him. That, what's the matter, Saeed? Why do you go missing after Isha? You're attending, you need to attend to their affairs, they need you. So he says, now look, we're talking about a timetable here. What does he say? He says, I'm spending the early part of my day attending to the household chores. Then I come out of my house and I attend to their affairs. After Isha, I return home. But what do I do at night? My night, I understand they're asking for my night. But O Amir al-Mu'mineen, let it be known to you. جَعَلْتُ النَّهَارَ لَهُمْ وَجَعَلْتُ اللَّيْلَ لِلَّهِ. He says, I've given my day to them, but my night I've given to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is my timetable, O Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is what I do. He's got a timetable. Not killing time. My day is for them, but my night is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fourth complaint. He says the fourth complaint is, third complaint is that there's one day in the month he goes missing for the entire day. Pure din ke liye he goes missing. So again, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu questions him. He says, why do you go missing for the entire day? So what does he turn around and say? He says, well, I only have one pair of clothes. Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have one pair of clothes. This is the governor of hymns. He's saying, I only have one pair of clothes. And that on that one day, I wash my clothes, I dry my clothes, and the time it takes me to do this, I have to spend my entire day in my home because I don't have enough clothing to be able to cover myself adequately and appropriately. Hence I spend my day in the home. I don't have anything else to wear. How can I come in front of them without any clothes? So I spend that one day in washing and drying my clothes. Fourth complaint. He says, sometimes we're sat in a gathering. We are sat in a gathering. And whilst we're sat in this gathering, all of a sudden he's like overtaken by some ajib condition, some very unusual condition where he kind of shrieks. He shivers, he shrieks, he screams, and then he just passes out. He faints, he becomes unconscious. And then eventually when he comes round, he's in such a state of being unwell that we have to say to him that, you know what, you're not well, just go home. Just go home, rest. There's no point you staying here. So again, we lose him then as well. So this guy, he keeps going missing all the time. In the day he's missing, in the night he's missing, one day he's missing. But he's got a timetable, hasn't he? Not without reason. Not without reason. So what does he say? He says the explanation to this is, Amir al-Mu'mineen, now that you've put me in such a place where I have no choice but to answer you, he says, prior to my advent of Islam, before I came into the fold of Islam and I embraced Islam, he says it was a time when Islam was in its infancy. There were very few Muslims. Muslims were being treated as outcasts. They were being tortured. They were being persecuted. And all kinds of difficulties were being heaped upon the Muslims. He says, I was one of them who used to laugh at the Muslims, who used to mock the Muslims. And every opportunity we got, we used to, the Sahabas at that time, we used to torture them. And on one certain occasion, a certain Sahabi who came into the area where I live, who was brought in as a captive, he was tied and shackled to a certain pillar. And he was kept there for many days. And for many days, all we did was we went to him, we made fun of him, we mocked him, we jeered him. And then eventually, they decided that, you know what, he's this captive that we have, we are going to assassinate him in retaliation for somebody that he assassinated in one of the battles, in one of the expeditions. So when that day came, and he was basically brought into the middle, we all gathered around him, and there we were laughing at him, mocking him. And before my very eyes, after I mocked him as well, I saw this Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being assassinated. And I had no understanding of what the value of a Sahabi is, or what a companion of Rasulullah is at that time. So I mocked him as well. I laughed at him. And sometimes I am consumed by these thoughts. That, you know what, you are present in that gathering. You mocked this companion of Rasulullah. You jeered him, you laughed at him. What will you say, Sa'id, on the day of judgment when you are presented before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And Allah will question you, that Sa'id, this companion of my beloved Nabi was being assassinated, and you are mocking him, you are making fun of him. He says, what answer will I give to Allah that day? He says, when I am overtaken by these thoughts, this is when I shriek, this is when I scream, and this is when I pass out and I become unconscious. So again, Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he turns around and he says to the people of Hims, are you happy with the explanations he's given? You made 4 complaints, he's explained everything. He says, yes, we are happy with him. But what we need to learn from this, my dear youngsters especially, and if you want to be successful, and you want to climb up this ladder of suluk, and to gain that closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to gain that bond and that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to make sacrifices. And the first place where we need to start, especially, the year's coming to an end. Within 5-6 days, everybody will be making their own New Year's resolutions, as they say. Yeah? And the resolution we need to make is, and especially I often say, I've been saying to a lot of the youngsters, especially now, that this 1.5-2 years, amidst all of these COVID restrictions and everything that's been happening around us, yeah, we don't know where this time has gone. And how much has it actually put life into perspective? Have we not even learned now, after everything that's happened over the past 1.5 years, that, where's my life going? I've just lost 1.5 years, 2 years. I need to be very mindful of my time. And this is one of the lessons we need to learn from this. And our resolution should be this, that my next year that's going to come, I'm going to make it very productive, from a spiritual aspect and also from a worldly aspect. So all of you students, work hard in your studies as well. If those of you that are doing your hifz, like mashallah Hafiz Sahib just told us as well, that if you want to really succeed, it's that early part of the day that you need to sacrifice. That Fajr Salah and that Tahajjud Salah, the amount of barakat it will bring in your lives, it's unimaginable. Have a timetable, organize your lives, organize your time, and then you will see how productive you become and how many things you can actually get done. Otherwise your life is being wasted away. Life is being wasted away. Where has this 1.5 years gone in lockdown? And who knows, we may be heading towards another lockdown. But we need to have a timetable. A believer, whether he is in lockdown or no lockdown, it doesn't make a difference to him. He has a timetable. He makes the most of his time. And that's what we need to learn. And that's probably one of the lessons we should have learned from lockdown. And from the ahadith and the stories of the Sahaba that we've just discussed. We should learn, we need to have a timetable. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mashallah, accept all of you coming over here today. May Allah ta'ala accept your spending this night in the gardens of paradise, mashallah. And I hope it'll be the first night of many to come, inshallah. Okay? And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your sacrifice and accept your youth, inshallah, for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, many a times, I remember one of our ustads used to say that Allah also gives a pension. Allah bhi pension deta hai. Allah gives a pension as well. And that pension is what? When you reach that age when you can no longer sit on the floor, you have to use a chair. You're struggling to actually get onto the floor to make sajda, etc. But what will happen? Allah will give you a pension even sat upon your chair as well. Why? Because you spent your youth in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes. Okay. So إذا مرض العبد أو سافر كتب له مثل ما كان يعمل مقيما صحيحا. That when a person becomes old and frail and weak, or he becomes unwell, or he's traveling somewhere, even whilst traveling and whilst he's unwell, if he spent his youth and he spent the majority part of his youth in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even after he becomes old and he becomes unwell, Allah says, I will give him a pension. And I will give him the reward of the very things he used to do in his youth. That's provided you did it in your youth. And remember your ibadat and your worship during your youth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, from the 7 people that will be given a place in the shade of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّ, when there will be no other shade other than the shade of the throne of Allah. Allah says it will be that young person, شَابٌ نَشَأَ فِي عِبَادَةِ اللَّهِ وَطَاعَتِهِ, that young person who spent his youth in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So your youth is very valuable. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your coming over here today. Make dua to Allah, that Allah, let it be that I use my youth in pleasing you. I utilize my time and my youth and my energy in connecting with you. Wallah, you attract me towards you. Wallah, you give me the tawfiq to climb the steps and the ladder of suluk and get close to you. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
This is Jazakallah to Moulana Saheb for giving us a very beneficial lesson for not only the youngsters, for all of us. And in order to act upon what the Moulana Saheb has said, inshallah tonight, those people who are spending the time here, not only spending, those who are not going to be spending time even there, they're requested to make use of their time. You know, once, just to add on to the Moulana, once I asked a student, how much do you spend on, your games or PS4? So he says 16 hours just in the weekend playing FIFA, 16 hours. There's one student, 3-4 hours on TikTok. 3-4 hours every day he spends on TikTok. And what does a person get out of it? Fortnite spends 10 hours just playing Fortnite. They won't go to sleep, they won't eat, they won't even do anything. All night they'll be on video games from night time, 12 o'clock until Fajr time. So this is why we Muslims sometimes spiritually we are failing in our studies. Sometimes spiritually we are not close to Allah. Even our academic studies, our madrasa studies, our Quran, Deen, whatever it may be. Sometimes we have to look at ourselves and see where our time is being spent, how we are spending our time. And like Moulana Saheb said, if we have a timetable, even if you have a timetable, if you want to spend time playing PlayStation, playing, going on the phone or whatever, limit yourselves. Have a limit. This is the time I'm going to play. Half an hour, 1 hour. Don't play during the week. Just play weekends. If you have a specific time, then the rest of the time we can use that time, spend it with the family, spend it on academic studies, Quran, Deen, Hifz, and then inshallah we will see how much difference it makes in our lives. Not only, like I said, youngsters, but those that elderly who are here, who are not going to be spending the night. Inshallah, there is a timetable set for all those that will be spending the night here. Inshallah, that has been shared through email to most of the people who will be spending the night. There's a timetable fixed, inshallah. So I would just like to finally say Jazakallah to Moulana Saheb again for taking out his valuable time to give us a time and to spend the beneficial and tell us about the importance of time and give us this lesson. May Allah Ta'ala give us ability to act upon this and give Moulana Saheb barakat in his life and the work he is doing, accept his khidmat, and Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala take the hidayah, take the work of deen from Moulana Saheb, give him istiqamat. Ameen wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Inshallah, Moulana Saheb, I just request him to do the final dua. Jazakallah.
درود شریف پڑھ لیں. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك أعلى الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. يا ودود يا ودود يا ذا العرش المجيد يا مبدئ يا معيد يا فعال لما يريد. نسألك بنور وجهك الذي ملأ أركان عرشك ونسألك بقدرتك التي قدرت بها على جميع خلقك ونسألك برحمتك الذي وسعت كل شيء. لا إله إلا أنت يا مغيث أغثنا، يا مغيث أغثنا، يا مغيث أغثنا، يا من لا تراه العيون ولا تخالطه الظنون ولا يصفه الواصفون ولا تغير الحوادث ولا يكشى الدوائر، يعلم مثاقيل الجبال ومكائل البحار وعدد قطر الأمطار وعدد ورق الأشجار وعدد ما أظلم عليه الليل وأشق عليه النهار، ولا تواري منه سماء سماء ولا أرض أرضا ولا بحر ما في قعره ولا جبل ما في وعره. اجعل خير عمرنا آخرة وخير أعمالنا خواتمة وخير أيامنا يوم نلقاك فيه. اللهم إنا إليك ضعفاء فقوي في رضاك ضعفنا وخذ إلى الخير بنواسينا واجعل الإسلام منتهى رضائنا. اللهم ثبتنا على الإيمان ومتنا على الإيمان واحشرنا يوم القيامة مع المتقين مع الإيمان. اللهم إنا نسألك من الخير كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم، ونعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعبادك الصالحون، ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعبادك الصالحون. وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Those who have registered and will be staying overnight for the sleep are requested to stay behind. Inshallah, a few of the house rules will be explained and the tartib and the timetable will be explained to you, inshallah. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All those who are here for the sleepover are requested to go upstairs in Jamaat Khana. All those brothers and all those youngsters who are here for the sleepover are requested to go upstairs in the Jamaat Khana. Jazakallah. Everyone who is here for the sleepover are requested to go upstairs in the Jamaat Khana. Jazakallah.